Today I'm reviewing Professor Barbara Brown Taylor's sermon entitled The Fourth Watch, taken from Mark 6:48 through 50. Professor Barbara Brown Taylor is an Episcopal priest. In 1983, she was ordained as a deacon in the Episcopal Diocese of Atlanta. And in 1984, she received her ordination as a priest at that same diocese. Presently, she is the Buttman Professor of Religion at Piedmont College in rural northeast Georgia. She's also an accomplished author. She has written 12 books, including the New York Times bestseller, An Altar in the World. She received her Master of Divinity degree at Yale University in 1976 and her Bachelor of Arts in Religion in 1973 from Emory University. In 1996, she was named one of the 12 most effective preachers in the English-speaking world by Baylor University. As it relates to the context of her sermon, The Fourth Watch, as learned in our class, I have applied Robinson's developmental questions. First, what does this mean? I believe that Professor Brown is implying the knowledge of the person and deity of Christ. Based on her statement regarding, and I quote, Rabbi and Messiah, one can conclude that she is implying that Jesus is the bread, that is the deity, and the seed of Abraham, showing the human side. In other words, Jesus is the God-man. She was animated in her delivery, and she also used a few concepts and terms to make her audience understand the full message. Secondly, is it true? Is it believable, that is, that Jesus is also God? Yes, on both counts. Brown quotes Matthew 14:33, that they confess that Jesus, that is, the disciples confess that Jesus is the Son of God. She also alluded that the disciples' hearts were hardened to the extent that they did not understand that initially they were having an encounter with God, that they were in the very presence of God. The sermon was short in content. Therefore, she did not go to great length to prove or to argue her point. I think by using various concepts and terms, however, she effectively delivered the message of the events that are liable to take place during the Fourth Watch. And her main point was made, that is, in effect, Jesus is Lord even if he is not recognized. Thirdly, so what? What difference does it make? Based on her introduction, when Jesus is fully recognized, it makes a profound difference in our lives. When Jesus, the Messiah, is acknowledged, it allows us to understand more clearly that we should submit to his lordship and to his authority. She brought this point out by using once again Matthew 14:33. Then those who were in the boat came and worshipped him, saying, Truly, you are the Son of God. Professor Brown uses colorful language to describe the various accounts by Mark, Matthew, and John, or lack thereof as in the case of Luke, as to how that particular story or event was presented. From then on, they were like building blocks to the lordship of Christ, especially during the Fourth Watch. The type of sermon. I believe that this is an inductive sermon. It starts off with the particulars of human experience and is intertwined with examples of day-to-day activities as it relates to the context of the message. And it concludes with the gospel. In spite of our clogged hearts, we remain Christ's chosen people as he remains our Lord. The main idea of the sermon. The essence of Brown's sermon is about knowing Jesus. According to our presentation as it relates to the text, the disciples know who he is, but they still did not know who he is. They recognized him as Rabbi, but not Messiah. The main idea is not so much about the storm that took place during the fourth watch. It was more about the God who was revealed in his Son, Jesus the Christ. Noteworthy aspect of this sermon. One of the noteworthy aspects of this sermon is the simplicity of the message. It was like telling a story. It was easily understood. The preacher maintained a constant flow during the delivery. The transition at each stage was smooth and was made for easy understanding. She used examples that made the sermon relative, or relevant that is, and relatable. Would I recommend this sermon to my classmates to read? Certainly. At times when I would hear a sermon, I ask myself this question: is this a sermon I could or would preach? The fourth watch is definitely a sermon I would preach. I would recommend it, therefore, to my classmates. Thank you.